Hello everyone, welcome to day one. Today we are gonna start our first lesson, which is Linux operating system. Linux is nothing but which is relatively like Windows, just an operating system, but most of the applications and desktops, computers which are running these days are like operating with Linux operating systems. So that is the topic that we're gonna discuss on our first day. So let's look at an introduction to Linux operating system. Previously, uh, based on Unix operating system only, Linux was invented. Okay, so Linux was very powerful, multi-user, and it is helping us to multitask. Like while I'm typing something, I can listen to the music, and while I'm sending a mail, I can watch a video. Like it allows us to multitask. And originally, Unix was developed in 1970s at AT and T Bell Labs. In that, like in that time only, Unix have been implemented. And when it comes to Linux, Unix was the foundation. It's like the father or mother of this operating system. And I can say an example like using Unix plus Linux, Unix is from Unix, Linux is derived from Unix. Okay, so with the help of Linux, only Mac OS have been built. Like that, you can take that as an example. And when it comes to Linux, Linux is free and open source, accessible to everyone. Like if you are willing to access Linux today, yes, it's possible. You can go to Google and then type Linux, like linux.org, and then you can download because it's open source. Okay, and it promotes global collaboration and innovation. Like all over the globe, it lets other people to get connected. And innovation, it allows innovation, yes, because since it is open source, anybody can access and anybody can pour their ideas into this operating system and then create applications and different use cases they can create. Okay, so that's how it helps in innovation and offers efficient performance. Okay, it offers efficient performance and strong security. Of course, it is very secure. Linux is very secure. That's why Mac OS is like very much secure compared to other systems. Okay, that is an example that we can talk about. And works well across many devices. Of course, Android, like servers, enterprise management servers, like all those stuffs are powered by Linux operating system. Linux is very much powerful than we expect. Okay, and what is distributions? Like Linux is in different flavors. Like we are having, when we are buying ice creams, we would be like we can order vanilla flavor, chocolate flavor, strawberry. Like there are kind of different flavors. Likewise, Linux is distributed in different, like different flavors. Okay, so according to your use case, you can choose one. Okay, Linux distribution is a complete operating system built around the Linux kernel. Okay, I'll be explaining you about Linux kernel in this session, combined with system software, libraries, and applications. Okay, these are the stuff that will help a system to be up and running. Okay, it provides everything needed to run Linux on different types of devices. Okay, so it's like this. Same application can be running in a mobile and in your web. Okay, so Linux is allowing you to do both. Distribution includes the Linux kernel, system libraries, and essential software tools. Okay, when you download this Linux, okay, Linux ISO image, you will be getting Linux kernel, system libraries, and essential software tools. Okay, that is included in it. And different distributions are designed for different purposes, such as desktops, servers, and embedded systems like IoT devices and whatever the devices that we are using now. So what are the examples of these distributions? They are like Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, etc. There are much more. Okay, according to the use case, we can choose one. Okay, moving through. Okay, now let's see the importance of Linux. Why we need this Linux? Linux is free. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, Linux is free and open source. Okay, it provides flexibility whenever you're having internet. Once you have downloaded the ISO image, from that day onwards you can run your Linux system on your like computer, even though if it is dual bootable, or you might have downloaded a virtual box or a VMware inside your computer and you have virtualized, and then you will be using Linux system. So either way, it allows you to access the Linux operating system as soon as possible. And stability, once you are in, you can do anything, like that much. Stable is there. Okay, and strong security, of course. I already mentioned, because of Mac OS is that much secure because it is built with Linux. Okay, highly flexible and customizable to suit different user and industry needs. Yeah. um, it states like, okay, let's take an example. If a doctor is using this Linux system, he might be using it for a different use case. If I'm using as a IT engineer, I will be using it for a different use case. So it will help and fill the gaps in between the user and the things that the system need to provide. Okay, and supported by a large global community and a vast software ecosystem. Yeah, this is because lots and lots of devices are using Linux. So uh, Linux is spread out all over the globe. Okay, so this is possible. This is made possible because of this stuff. Okay, and this is the architecture of Linux. Okay, the core is the hardware, like the motherboard, the motherboard, hard disk, RAM, all those stuff that we are having is comes under this. And kernel is the software that lets you get communicated with hardware. And the shell means nothing but it's like a command line. Okay, command line, it can be named as command line or a terminal, that can be anything, but shell allows you to send message to the hardware using the kernel. Okay, kernel is the intermediary level inside this architecture. Okay, so kernel uh, sits in between the shell and hardware, and whatever the applications that you're running, there comes on top of them. Okay, so let's say this is your Word application and shell is here. Whatever the request, okay, let's say you are double clicking the Word document and the double click is sent to shell, and that will be passed to the kernel, and then this will be passed to hardware. And hardware, let's say the your Word document is stored in the secondary memory, which means your hard disk. Then it will be giving you with the um, file from this hardware. Hardware will be like kernel will be receiving the file, and then it will be sending it to the application, to the user interface. That's how the Linux works. Okay, so it's like each and every operating system would be having a different architecture, but this is how we look at Linux. Okay. Okay, and the applications of Linux operating system, there are much more applications we have all over the globe, but I have listed some of them. Like servers and hosting. Servers, in the sense, most of the data centers are using servers. So for them, we are most of the time using Linuxes, like Red Hat, Enterprise Linux, which is the famous one that we all know. And for the developers, of course, for the application development or anything, there are web applications and normal applications. Yeah, for the development also we are using this Linux operating system. And then Linux desktop and personal use, of course, like most of the system administrators, AI engineers, like a lot more, all the employees are using um, Linux system for their personal use. And then cybersecurity, of course, this comes under, like everybody would know about Kali Linux. So yeah, so cybersecurity is also comes with Linux operating system. Their cybersecurity related fields are directly connected with Linux operating system. And embedded systems, which are like like IoT devices that we use, that can be Raspberry Pi and Arduino, like that can be anything. Embedded systems are directly operating under Linux operating system. And supercomputers, as we all know, supercomputers are also running in this Linux operating system. And how we can select a distribution, like based on the requirement of ourselves, we can decide one. Okay, so let's say I'm a beginner, then Ubuntu or Linux Mint will be beginner friendly. Okay, you can like follow with Ubuntu, so it will help you as a beginner. And if you are a advanced user, you can go for Arch Linux or Gentoo. Okay, if you are a developer, you can go with Fedora or Debian. Okay, for the servers, most of the time, like as we know, we are using Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which we call as RHEL, or else we can use CentOS. And lightweight systems, they are like Ubuntu, Puppy Linux. We use this lightweight systems in legacy servers, which are like old servers. Okay, and for security, we are using Kali Linux. Okay, and the next one, Linux commands. Okay, we gonna look at Linux commands. So Linux is a file-based operating system. Okay, so entire thing, like whatever you save, they are being saved as a file inside the Linux operating system. Okay, so so from the next session itself, we will be using some like we will be using most of the time, we will be using the terminal, like the terminal, Linux terminal, uh, to work on the sessions. Okay, thank you. Let's see you on the next session.